We just leave it first lah. If not, it's
Yes,
next round.
that's right. And you are being recorded already, Mike.
Oh, I am?
Yes.
Okay, cool. We're starting now. We
Oh, we
gotta
started a
go.
while back already.
Oh
All
my
right, and
goodness.
that strange world. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes behind the scenes conversation is just so hilarious, like what we've been planning and the stuff that that goes on behind the scenes. I wish sometime I could just let you guys take a peek in it. So maybe from time to time I might just secretly film this too, guys. Anyway, welcome back to
Wow.
Strange World, ladies and gentlemen. If you've been following us all along, you know that in the last episode, we introduced the idea that while thermodynamics explain why things break down, infodynamics seems to suggest that information does the exact opposite. It structures itself and redefines, or rather refines itself and optimizes over time. But before we continue exploring how these ideas might apply to the supernatural, the hauntings, and even the structure of reality itself, we need to take a step back and ask, were we using these terms correctly? Because words matter. If you're going to use science to explore the unknown, then we need to make sure that we are defining things properly. And for that, Michael, I'm passing this over to you.
Yeah, in the last episode, I think in my excitement to get into the topic, right, I was throwing thermodynamics and infodynamics all over the place, and not giving its proper what do we call it? Its proper place, you know? Yeah. So before we go any deeper, let's just address this. Yes, but I want to also recalibrate the listener's mind and the minds of Eugene and Dr. Yong. Okay, so it sounds like we're going into the matrix, and in my script when I wrote this, it sounds like I'm Morpheus lah, basically. So I'll read this out, um, and we'll just go from there. Okay, so now what if I told you that nothing truly disappears? Not your memories, not your thoughts, not even the energy of your body.
You got to do it in a Morpheus voice,
Ah.
man. What
I
if I
tried.
told you? Okay, go ahead.
What if I told you that everything you are, your past, your emotions, your soul, may not be lost, but
Cue
simply
shits, man.
reorganized? Oh, look at this guy. Look at this.
I love it.
And if that's true, then what does that mean about death, time, reality itself? So today we are going to be exploring these, but these are the questions that I hope that as a listener yourself, it's something to ponder as you go through this. Because I'm going to say here, um, thermodynamics. When I did this entire portion, right? I was telling Eugene, I think we got enough for 5 hours lah. But Eugene was like, "Hey, no, cannot. 5 hours."
This is writing a thesis for university level already.
Yeah. From
Yeah.
5,000 listeners, we'll be left with 5. Yeah.
No lah. According to the comments, right? And this is the reason why this is such a big thing, because the comments, from the first day that we launched the first episode, it's very encouraging to see that the audiences show a lot of interest into wanting to go deeper.
Yeah.
So that's why I think even for the episodes as we go along, we're trying to kind of take the feedback and then improve upon it. Based on um the main point is that comments matter. There was a bit of tough love here and there. But yeah, the comments we really take them seriously. Okay, so let's get straight into this. Okay, now in episode 2 we talked about how everything, matter, sound, and even thoughts operate on vibrational frequencies. Now, what we didn't get into was how these vibrations relate to energy flow. And this is where the first term, thermodynamics, would come in. Now, it was established before that the universe is governed by laws. Some are known, some are unknown. Some we actually do take for granted. Like, for example, the way heat moves from hot to cold, or how things naturally fall apart, right? And it's because of thermodynamics. It governs the energy, how it moves, how it transforms, and also how it decays over time. And today you may notice that I'm putting a lot of focus on the word time. So it's something that you all just need to kind of hang on to there. Okay. Now, so with that, with the transformation and the decay, right? It explains why coffee will cool, why your body ages, and why eventually we understand that things break down. So as a part of the law of thermodynamics, we understand that entropy is constantly happening, which is as time goes by, things start to break down. And there's a parallel for this, right? Now, infodynamics, on the other hand, is a counterintuitive term. And the thing is that it governs information. Now, we're not talking about like computer data, we're not talking about like information that we understand, but we're talking about information that is very bioorganic information, like, for example, the DNA in our blood, in our cells that form who we are as a person, up to the genetics and things like memories. Like, where do memories go, once someone moves on, right? So here's the funny thing. One law explains why things die, right? And we might think that, oh, this is just physical only. No, 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 no. Remember, in episode 2, we were talking about vibrations exist no matter what, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a convergence of this.
Okay.
And the other, which is infodynamics, will explain why things never really disappear.
Like ghost or like
Yeah.
the people say that when certain tragedy happen, there's a certain loop. So this infodynamics explains that.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So it's like one is this, one is that, and they're going both going in two different directions, but they are still working together because that is how the universe seems to be behaving. Yeah. So now, to quickly just run through some stuff so that we let our audience also kind of have some knowledge of this, right? Now, first law of thermodynamics is that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred or transformed. If you need to write it down, write it down. But we'll go through this around.
Yeah. No. I think what you so ladies and gentlemen, just I know it sounds a bit heavy right now, but what's important is because the discussion that comes later on with regards to the supernatural and to explain in at least in as scientific a way as possible how these hauntings happen, the idea of thermodynamics, infodynamics, and that energy doesn't get destroyed but transferred matters
Yeah.
in that discussion later on. So
Yes,
pay attention.
correct. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And okay, so the second law of thermodynamics, which we already mentioned, which is entropy, is that all things naturally tend to go toward disorder over time unless energy is actively added. So think of it this way, right? A sandcastle on the beach. After you built it without influence, without interference. Oh my goodness. Okay, without interference, right? Eventually it will erode, it will crumble, or it will go back into the sand. And that's what we call entropy, right? Unless someone comes in to rebuild the thing, right? Yeah, the castle will just sort of blend into the sand.
Okay.
All right. So now, with that knowledge, okay, and knowing that things vibrate at different frequencies, the question here is thermodynamics about energy transfer? And do supernatural experiences follow the same rules?
Oh, okay. Now that Mike have
Drop the bomb.
drop the geek bomb on us. This is where we start to explore, based on the laws that you've just heard, how does that affect the supernatural?
Can I
Yeah.
just because the word entropy, right, can be very confusing. It was confusing to me at first when I encountered it. So can I just elaborate a little bit
Yes,
more?
please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because entropy, when we hear the word entropy, it means chaos, it means disorder, right? But there is this superficial meaning of entropy, and it could be misleading and counterintuitive. And why do I say that? Because a system in maximum entropy is actually the most stable. High entropy is stable, low entropy is not stable. So if you can imagine a bell curve, right, that is actually low entropy. Okay, it is unstable. And imagine a flat graph that's high entropy is stable. Going back to Mike's analogy of the sandcastle, right, a sandcastle or a built sandcastle is actually low entropy. And when it's crumbled into a pile of sand, that is actually high entropy. The pile of sand is more stable but it looks more disordered than the structured sandcastle. And the cup of coffee that Mike mentioned, right? If you imagine dropping a drop of food coloring into a cup of water, initially when that drop goes in, there is a dark colored portion, and then there's water, and that is actually the part where it is low entropy. And when it disperses and the whole cup of water is pale blue or green, that is when it's the highest entropy. So it's like counterintuitive. So in case anyone wants to go into that, have this idea in mind. Yeah, and lastly is high entropy systems are stable because they are in equilibrium, and while low entropy systems are unstable because they are far from equilibrium and tend to evolve towards higher entropy. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think I represent
Alright.
the 90% of the audience when I give you this look. I think on some intuitive level, I get it. Like when things are okay, so I'm gonna try to for the rest of us mortals, I'm gonna try to crunch this down, right? Using the sandcastle example. So when things are at high entropy, means things are already in disarray. That's when you cannot get any more fucked up than that, and therefore it's stable. But when things are in order, because the natural order of things is to go towards entropy, to be destroyed in chaos. So the more formed up they are, there is a higher spike in possibilities. Thus, the bell curve, right, going up this way, that it gets destroyed faster and harder. So the more built up the sandcastle, the more there's things to destroy. But when it's already destroyed, there's not much further that you can get from the pile of sand.
Yeah. When it's full bar, there's nothing beyond full bar. Yeah.
You should just go with that line.
Yeah, but here's the thing,
Yeah.
in all the entropy, right?
Yeah.
Correct. How the sand operates, right, is still intact, which is where you get your infodynamics in very loose ways. Okay, so coming back right into the supernatural part of
Yeah.
this, right? Okay, is that now let's talk about this. This one is pretty popular. I think Eugene, you would know the most.
Wow. Okay.
Right, this is really your wheelhouse, really.
Clearly,
Okay.
the last 50 minutes, I know the list. Maybe finally I get something to share.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Okay.
man. I look for something, like,
Okay,
so
okay.
that you'll be part of this. Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the pity
No, lah,
points.
no, lah,
Nah,
no,
carry
lah.
on. I
Your
got
role
this,
is, this is where your moment has come,
Okay. Okay.
Okay, now to start, so did you know that your body is constantly emitting infrared radiation? Right, heat is constantly escaping because I know thermodynamics. Although we went into the deeper areas, right, it's also about heat and energy.
Yeah.
Now, in haunted locations, people and even paranormal investigators report that sudden drops in temperature happen without logical explanation. Yeah. So we call it the cold spot. I'm sure the SC community very familiar with this. Anyone who loves supernatural stuff, paranormal stuff will know this. So, but it goes beyond this, because this is not just something that is spiritual, it doesn't separate from the science. Meaning to say that infrared thermal imaging, it goes into investigations, and this is physical items, right?
Yeah.
Can show these temperature differentials. And we've been taking for granted things. Oh, the thermometer here, you test the temperature here is lower.
So
Alright?
when you talk about the heat temperature and the thermodynamics in infrared that we give out, do you mean it's something like when you watch Predator and the Predator sees us in that red patch walking around?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to go into that also a little bit. I think I have it somewhere inside there. We're going to go
Okay.
into that. Yeah. So this is suggesting that heat is being drawn away from the environment. Excuse me. Now, so here's the principle. If something absorbs energy, that means the surrounding area will cool down, isn't it? So if we
Yes.
reverse this, it will be something. An area will cool down because energy is being taken away,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you stand, it's like when you stand beside the aircon, you feel the cold because it pulls the heat out of the air. Even though we feel the aircon is blowing at us, correct? But the law of thermodynamics actually would tell you that it is not the air that is blowing, but it's the energy that is being taken, the heat energy that is being taken away. So that's kind of like the scientific logic here.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But in a haunted house, there is no AC unit,
Yeah.
right? So where is the energy going? Yeah. How do we pair this? So would we say that if spirits exist, they might absorb heat energy to manifest?
Hmm.
And Eugene, one of those hi-fi thingamajigs that Ghostbusters carry around, right?
Yeah.
What's the name and what does it do?
That's the PKE meter, right? The one you're talking about Ghostbusters. You're talking about Paranormal
Uh,
Investigators or Ghostbusters? Ghostbusters, the movie, it's a
the
PKE
the
meter.
paranormal investigators. I think
They
it
use
starts
the
with a F one.
EMF, is it? You're talking about the EMF
Not the
device?
EF, another one that measures temperature one.
Uh, they use the infrared thermal imaging or
Mhm.
um,
There's another one. The one that I said, I asked you what should I bring to Egypt and then to bring inside the pyramids, right? You told me something is very, very expensive, but I can't remember the name.
yeah,
Oh, temperature gun.
no, the FLIR one, the FLIR.
Ah, yeah, FLAR,
It's a
yeah, yeah. What?
FLIR is the brand. The device is thermal imaging device.
Oh,
So FLIR is like we're not sponsored by FLIR here, but FLIR seems to be the industry staple when you want to go for. It's used for engineering, but in this case we use it for investigation because we will put the FLIR camera in a location and point to a spot where we feel might be haunted. In one of the early use of the FLIR thermal imaging cam that I experienced was in the Yellow Tower in Singapore. So a big bit of history of the Yellow Tower is that people believe it's haunted because a girl was stabbed and she died around the vicinity. And I covered this in some of the other shows. You can just go and Google it up. And we went down and we had a camera pointed at the staircase area. So why we use all these devices is to kind of corroborate what we feel as sensitives or psychics. Like if I say, oh, I feel there's a cold spot here and I feel there's energy, it's I own self say, right? Visually, no one can validate that. So that's what this thermal imaging is for. So if I say there's a cold spot here, that thermal imaging recording should capture a drop in temperature. And we're not talking about a 1-2 degree drop. We're talking about a 4 to 10 degree drop. So that would
wow.
so that's how we kind of define the difference between a paranormal cold spot and maybe say innocent cold breeze. So if I come to a place and I feel like a breeze just blow by and I go, ooh, it's a cold spot, I cannot immediately assume, yeah, a ghost just walked past me, even though that's what I would think, because I cannot back that up with evidence. But in a case of the East Coast, when we stood there and said there's a cold spot here, we were able to put our hands inside and put our hands out, and then it's like there is a distinct difference in temperature, and this cold spot seems to just float in the mid-air. And like what Mary Mike has said, that there's always going to be a source to remove heat from a location, or that's like a aircon, for example. But in this case, if it's the open air, right in the middle of a space that's floating, then how do you explain that? You cannot. So when we cannot explain it in science, we say it's an unnatural phenomenon, and the equivalent of the word unnatural phenomenon means there's likely to be a supernatural explanation, or at least it falls towards being a supernatural. Then when we did that and we felt all that, when we replayed the image capturing device footage, we saw that where that spot where we felt the cold was a cold shape. Remember I mentioned about the whole predator thing. When you look through the screen, is we are red, right? We are orange in color, but a cold spot is purple or blue in color. We're talking about 10 degree drop. There is a cold spot of a woman, like with the head, the shoulder. So even if I had wanted to fake a cold spot by say putting an ice cube over there, I literally had to carve out a shape of a woman, put it there for a while, and then quickly remove it so that the atmosphere around there would be shape of a woman. But even so, you're not going to get a nicely shaped woman because you're going to get like just a oval lump of ice block, right? It's not going to be nicely
Yeah,
defined.
because thermodynamics, right? It will dissipate eventually. Okay, so the question that just came out to my mind is that this okay, the cold spot. That means if you are touching the cold spot, are you actually touching the ghost?
I would imagine so. Like you're putting your hand into a cold spot, right? And if the idea that a cold spot is made up of a ghost because it's the shape of a woman, then I'm basically fisting her lah when I'm doing it.
Then no wonder lah. Every time you touch a cold spot, they'll run away lah.
I thought they kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, okay, no, because no, this is interesting because now it was so like it sort of implies that the it means it's not the entity that is drawing energy. You know, like there are two different things. There is the entity itself in order to exist or in order to materialize, right, or to crystallize itself, right. It has to draw energy. Say, for example, I don't know lah, breathing or using the mouth to suck in air, that kind of thing. Or is it the body?
You're talking about spirits or humans?
Spirits.
Because when we do investigations, spirits sometimes also draw energy from battery packs. Like we always say, you bring a camera into the field, you find that suddenly all your devices malfunction, your battery from full bar becomes zero. So it's and he has been caught on camera before where a fully charged battery pack, we put it there and turn it on, and we invite the spirit to come drain the energy. The battery pack just goes flat under a minute. And immediately after the battery goes flat, there seems to be manifestation and poltergeist activity around, suggesting that perhaps the spirit had to drain energy from somewhere in order to affect change or to cause transmutation in the environment.
Well, now I have so many theories suddenly, you know.
See, like, on Strange World, I use the word such as transmutation. Huh.
Because from what I understand, right? Right, it does seem like it is heat that is giving any form of heat. So, like for example, you were saying that it can drain battery, it can drain power, right? And typically battery has a certain form of heat that comes off of the device. Not only that, but humans when they go through specific emotions, they also give off heat, because when they go through strong emotions, right, the heart will pump blood, and then they also generate their own level. So like for example, anger, frustration, your body actually does heat up, you know. And we also know that charged energy like this tends to be what entities like to go to. Okay, I'm just throwing it out there, you know. Y'all have to stop me also if I'm a bit too crazy, because I'm going all the way in that sense. Because now I'm guessing, right? If we say that an area like Singapore itself, by geolocation, is one of the more haunted areas, we also know that places like Africa themselves, there's a lot of supernatural stuff going on there. Do you think that because we are near the equator, we are warmer?
So we are okay. So we are just going by heat, is it? Like
yes,
because we are closer to the sun or the equator, so we got more heat for the ghosts to use to many.
Correct. Wow. Basically, all ghosts are Superman. They take power from the sun.
So in that case, winter there's no ghost lah.
I don't know. Have you ever seen a winter ghost?
I think you go. Okay, so since you mentioned the Angmo countries, right? Then why do ghosts like to hang out in cold, dark places when there's no heat? Right? We always say
this is
Right.
Yeah,
No, that's
sorry,
good. That's
you
good.
No,
want
no,
to?
Dr. Young, over to you. I just
Yeah.
wanted to throw that out because if we say
Um,
that heat is what the ghost needs to in order to manifest, then cold dark places should not have any ghosts, lah.
this is where this is the yin and yang thing. Where if we carry our yang energy, the people traffic, they bring out yang energy. The ghosts actually don't like it, and when there's no footfall, it slowly become more yin, and that is where they percolate there and then together there. So yeah, now it's a different perspective, and I don't know whether it is still the thermodynamics thing still immediately applies, or it's like a different way to look at it. This yin yang kind of thing, like when they say, if you plant a lot of bamboos growth in your house, then you create a yin spot, and then you actually attract attract entities. I don't know.
Actually, I want
um
to, sorry, go on first before I share something that the late Jonathan actually hypothesized regarding the same theory that you talked about.
Never mind, you continue. I will be jumping into something slightly related, but then it's slightly off topic.
Okay, so according to the late Jonathan Lim from Friday Night Live, who ran with me, Walk with Hantu Changi, at one of the particular spots during the trail, we suggested that the reason why places like chalets, schools, army camps, hotel rooms are generally haunted. Like, when we hear ghost stories, when we receive confessions, these are the locations that are classic evergreen. Like almost every chalet is haunted, every school's haunted, every army camp's haunted. So we kind of ask the question, why? And if we take the Yin-Yang theory that you just talked about and understand that the entire world needs its balance. We need our balance. Meaning, yes, I love to be in the sun, but you put me out there in the sun and I'm sweating every day. No, I won't like it. There are times I want the moon. I want to be in the aircon room, right? So I want the cold. I want the night, the yin. But we are all creatures of yang. And then if we flip it the other way around, and spirits are creature of yin, they also don't want to be in the cold, dark, haunted castle all the time because that's where they are comfortable. But from time to time, they need the yang as well. So, which means they can't walk into a shopping mall where it's full of people because it's too much yang, right? So, they need a place where it's very young at times, full of young energy, and then at times it's just empty. So, the remnants of that heat pattern remains embedded in the area and environment. So that's where they can come in, harvest the young energy for the balance, and then leave. Places like, say, a chalet, where over the weekend is so full of life, laughter, and young energy. Then on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is like dead town. And that's when they go, ooh, buffet. Right? So it sounds like it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, it sounds like they want the energy, but it cannot be like overwhelming. They want to take it little bit by little bit, sips and not a big bite. Yeah,
True.
sounds fun actually. And just now when you mentioned, about sorry, I'm just slipping over to a topic. Is
Sure.
that you mentioned about the battery pack being drained? When there's a poltergeist activity, this reminds me about the opposite of this. Again, into the thermodynamics is when I had my Kundalini awakening. This is when my Fitbit. So my Fitbit advertised to last 6 days per charge, but practically it lasts 4.5 days. And has been using it for about a year or two, and that has been the rhythm or how long it takes to how long the battery can last. Post Kundalini awakening, the battery lasted longer and longer, and it went from 7 days to 8 days to 9 days, and then it lasted 10 days per charge, and that was like crazy until 6 months later, the watch conked out of no reason.
Overpowered, overcharged.
That is my theory, but I don't know. But it seems like this thermodynamic thing, we can look at it from different aspects and different things. And and one last thing is that talking about sucking the energy, poltergeist, and we've heard of this thing where prayer or prayer food items are tasteless because the entities have already retrieved, and perhaps there's one form of energy that's being retrieved, that's why it becomes tasteless. What do you all think?
Oh,
Because now we're talking about thermodynamics, so my head was stuck in the heat heat and
Yeah.
cold. But
Okay.
taste, is that energy? Is taste and energy? Or suppose the
Taste, because the flavor and aroma comes from
It's
dissipated molecules moving about, right?
so
Yeah.
vibrations of molecules creating certain
Yeah.
information, and therefore when we imbue this information, it tells us this is how it smells like or tastes like.
Correct.
So taking on the thermodynamic explanation, then it would stand to reason that when something is absorbed out of it, then the vibration cease to exist, and therefore there's no taste, or and
Correct.
there's less vibration, it's less hot, right?
Yeah. It's like why you eat that what's that sour candy that we used to eat when we were
The
younger.
sour apple, the
Yeah, they use that the one
kana
where
and
it's
all
like
that.
a big ball, a gobstopper they
Yeah,
put
yeah,
inside.
yeah.
Then your face is
Mm.
yeah, it's a bit like that. Like it loses its sourness after a while.
Okay, so I'm with you guys on this, right? I'm with you guys. So to help the rest of my non-geek peeps understand, I think what we are trying to allude here is when we see or hear stories of coal spots, hear stories that batteries are drained, and clearly 7-month food has lost its flavor. That's at least in evidence there must be an expulsion or drain of energy from one point to another. The point of this discussion is where was it drained to? So is this sentient entity, the form of a ghost, required to drain energy from external source in order to manifest, or if not manifest, at least do things the same way we need to drink our water to survive? They need to drain energy because they don't take physical food. So what can
Yes.
they take? They take energy, unseen stuff.
Yeah. So this one will very nicely move to my next point, which is residual hauntings, which is what Eugene was talking about. And the question here is, are ghosts just stored energy? So we understand things like, for example, entities like as much as we previously established that the entities like heat, they also like cold dark places. And in cold dark places, we hear things like footsteps in the hallway, voices that whisper, shadow that flickers in the same spot night after night, things like that. Correct. And there's some can be intelligent, some do respond, as we see with the work that Eugene does. But then there are also unintelligible entities that interact with the living. I think in one of your housekeeping episodes, you and Belinda mentioned about imprints, right? Correct. Yeah. So these are things that don't respond, they don't change, they may not think, but they just play back. Whether or not it's from the future, whether or not it's from the past, we don't know. I'm not going to touch into that because we just going to touch into the energy portion, right? Now most paranormal researchers will call this residual hauntings.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that the energy doesn't die, but imprints itself onto a place like a memory that is stuck in time.
Well, that's actually in line with one of the questions that Ryan Yasukawa has posted on the SC private group. It must be the hunter. Let's read what he wrote
Yeah.
about this. So similar to what you just said, Mike, he's asking the same question as well. Have you ever thought about whether ghosts are just energy left over from people who once lived rather than spirits? And it was a conversation I had while discussing how sometimes objects and sensations reveal the presence of ghosts rather than a person. A good example is there is a building which was the old Hotel de Monte, now part of the Naval Postgraduate School, where someone I knew said you you could occasionally smell the odor of cigar smoke in Herman Hall, which is now a non-smoking area. Additionally, in the area is a preserve called the Santa Lucia Range. In the camping area are a number of trails which on occasions you can hear a wagon cart race down the road. My friend thinks it's like the memory of people who live there. Personally, I believe in spirits in terms of entities which could express will and take action. Stuff like water, spirits grabbing people, etc. But it doesn't always explain the inanimate objects that people sometimes see, like ghost ships and trains, etc. What do you think? So, well, Ryan, I think this is the perfect conversation that we're going to have right now to answer your question. So, you talk about imprints, we talk about energy leaving a mark behind.
Right.
When we put something hot on the table and you remove the packet of hot soup, the table is hot. In this case, if if the ghost is around an area or something tragic happens in that location, and we always say like in places like where there's suicide, or accident, a car crash, there is such high traumatic expulsion of emotions, and we are talking in this discussion that everything is energy, right?
Right.
Spiritual practitioners will say, yeah, everything's energy, everything's vibration. So we're going with that line of thought. If that tragedy has such a mega explosion of emotions that shakes and vibrates in that spot, even after you clear the physical debris, the emotional pattern still stays. Pretty much like a nuclear fallout, right?
Yeah.
And we know that nuclear fallout can take years, centuries to be removed. And there is a belief, not science, but in a spiritual belief, that when a person dies before his or her time, the remaining years in the mortal life is converted by 3 times more. And that's how long the person or the energy will stay behind to haunt, which means certain places that have been haunted for a very long time will become less and less haunted over time. Again, the topic of entropy, right? Things will start
Alright.
to degrade, decompose, including energy,
Yeah.
but not destroyed, perhaps transmute or transform to a different type. So in the early days, when after an accident, people tend to see that loop. So I think hauntings are to answer the question, are stored energy, or at least stored in the fabric of that space-time environment where it's in, so that a psychic can come in and see the energy pattern, and that's why they can tell you what happens there.
Oof.
Dr. Yong?
Yeah, a lot of things coming. One is this energy imprints, right? There's this thing called psychometry, where people who are highly sensitive, they can go to a place. For example, they can go to Angkor Wat, put their hands on the wall, on the bricks, and they could feel the events that have happened there. If this same person went to the killing fields of Pol Pot, then he's going to be overwhelmed. Then the person will sob, will kneel down and can't leave the scene because she's so overwhelmed by the energy. And also, I have a client who previously, I think she was in Turkey and visiting the catacombs. And some of those catacombs are uh, there's a lot of skeletons. And then when she passed through, there's this just awful, sad, and draining energy that when she came out, she feels like a zombie, and then she could not function for a few hours. And this could relate, into what we are talking about, the energy, the imprints, and everything. And just want to jump a little again. Sorry, I do a lot of side checking today. Just now you mentioned 3 times when a person prematurely departed from the due time. There is you mentioned 3 times.
Yeah.
I just now I got a full body goosebump because when I visited my late dad in the I don't know what to call it, the astral traveling space. He was walking the staircase, and I asked him that, why have you not reincarnated? And he was telling me that because I left earlier than intended, so I need to do 7 times 3, 21. I need to walk this staircase for 21 years. And I don't know
Oh.
where the number came from, but from what you're telling me, because he told me 7 times 3, now this times 3 thing is like it gels. And then what he meant to say though, he departed 7 years earlier than
Ayo. Oh
uh,
wow.
I'm just
Oh,
recording, right?
Wow. I
goose.
same.
So, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Sorry for side checking.
Oh.
Over back to the topic of thermodynamics.
Yo
Now,
man.
now
Okay.
the other thing also, sorry,
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
so we talk about tragedy just now, and tragedy leaves an imprint in a space. Then the other discussion is, why only tragedy? Why not something else? Again, I believe that just like air, there's different levels of density. Emotions have also different levels of density. Why we say, oh, have this very heavy feeling. What's that heavy feeling? We talk about the sadness, the depression. We use words like it weighs you down. So on a subconscious level, we know that emotions have weight. or we feel the weight of these emotions. So
Absolutely.
when a tragedy happens, there is a very low density, or rather high, a very high density type of emotion that gets stuck in imprinted into the fabric of space time, and that's why it lingers more than say a happy occasion that is very light, very airy and fairy, and then that gets dissipate faster. So over time, the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, haunting will tend to reduce over time. And that also explains now, since this is Strange World and talks about thermodynamics and how things have entropy and degrades in time, this answers the question why we do not find ghostly cavemen, but we find, say, ghostly colonial ghosts, and but not sometime further, say in the 14th century or the 12th century. That's because they probably have dissipated already. So what we might also find that over time, in the next, say, 100, 200 years, the idea of the Pontianak, the idea of the Pocong will probably dissipate as well, because it's no longer in our psyche. It's no longer, there's nothing new to, like what Mike said just now, if there's nothing new to energy to pump into it, the
Yeah.
sandcastle will just fall apart. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we also did touch upon is a little bit on infodynamics, actually. The part where we say there's stored energy, where it's where things do linger,
Mm,
right? So I'm just going to put this out there,
mm,
okay? And just give you guys something to kind of ponder over,
mm,
right? Which is now information based on what infodynamics suggests is that information never truly disappears, but it goes somewhere.
ah,
So, like for example, uh, thermodynamics is a transference of that information. Like when you say that you put a hot coffee on the table, right? The heat tends to go onto the table and then
mm,
it gets stored there for a while before it goes on to somewhere else.
mm,
That is uh, that is the thermodynamics manipulating the infodynamics in that sense, right? The transference of information, just transference of the state itself. Okay, so what if haunted locations are just natural record players playing back energy imprinted into the environment?
uh.
You know, like for example, energy is there, yes, but the setting itself and the surrounding area is what is also powering the energy sometimes.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so like
so
for example,
okay, go on.
yeah, sorry, yeah, like for example, we okay the I can't say the Chinese lah. I think in general lah, people like ancestral worship lah in that sense, or rather ancestral prayers. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
We and I think this one has been talked about before, which is we tend to, if we remember our forefathers, if we we do rituals to remember them, correct, they will be fed with energy
Yeah,
as well.
the memory lah, the memory of
Yeah,
them. That's why we have memorial services and all that. When you
yeah,
remember the date, they continue to live on,
yes,
right?
correct. Yeah,
Gods
correct.
for that matter as well. The minute gods stop being worshipped, they cease from existence.
Yes, correct, correct. So that's something to think about. Like, are we like the science itself is already sort of suggesting that there is power within us to be able to provide energy to these ideas and thoughts to manifest.
Okay, so that you're talking about manifestation. You're talking about, like, I would imagine I'm trying to English this whole thing, right? So like when we give, we can give energy to someone by our words, by our
Yes,
thoughts, and therefore we say, I give you my thoughts and prayers.
correct.
We laugh at that all the time, but there is power
Yes,
given through thought, prayers, and words. Similar to if I were to perform on stage and people are just cheering in front of me and they
yeah,
go,
you.
Eugene, I love you. I then feel suddenly emotionally and energetically powered up to perform more. And the
Correct.
same can then also be said that if I am a deceased and I have a throng of people remembering me, I continue to perhaps in spirit form one way or another exist somewhere. Um,
Yes.
and you have a question for that? Like I'm trying to find that point that you're trying to lead to that turns into a question that we can
Okay.
answer.
The question. So the question is, do you think we will be able to use the laws of infodynamics and the laws of thermodynamics to manipulate things into existence?
Oh, and I think that's where casting of spells is, right? Like
Yes.
you write a mantra that is the info, you put it out
Mm,
there, and that info is now embedded into the environment around, and using the laws of thermodynamics of conversion of energy, that
correct.
mantra then manifests into what is intended for.
Yes. Correct. So I think this is something that I wouldn't say all of us has the answer. You know, if anyone in the audience have something that
Are
they
you
can
kidding? Dr. Yong always
explain.
has the answer. I
Does
always
he?
look to him for the answers.
I was waiting for you. Not
He's just waiting for you to shut up so he can go like, allow me, guys.
okay, okay. How?
Um, okay. We're gonna hark back a little bit. 1 second. I'll make sure I'm trying to get the right screen. So just now, Eugene, you mentioned about the energy, right? Feeling the weight in the heart. These
Mm,
things weigh us down.
mm.
Let me see. Yep, I got the right screen. Okay. Let me, because I'm not familiar with this video. Are you seeing the
Wow.
screen? Are you seeing the screen? This
Oh yeah,
Quora.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We just
Okay.
Yeah.
saw the
Yeah.
rainbow
So
thing.
Wait, hold on. I think I need to
yeah.
put this up for for people
Oh,
to see.
okay. Yes.
Give me a minute. Putting it out there.
Yeah. So
Wait.
this
Hold on, hold
rainbow
on.
funnel.
Let me.
No worries.
Uh,
I can just slowly explain. So
okay.
what you're going to see is going to see a rainbow funnel, and
Uh-huh.
this rainbow funnel documents the energy levels of certain emotions, thoughts, or vibrations. And this is actually created by Dr. David R. Hawkins, who is actually a psychiatrist.
Hmm.
When we talk about using thermodynamics, infodynamics to create something, to manifest something, this is actually what I teach my workshop, in the sense that um, we are always attracting things. And when you are of a low vibration because of your thoughts, your self-doubt, everything, you're kept very low. These are the things based on the subconscious theory, based on the reticular activating system. This is what it's like. You
Sorry.
know,
I need to. You could ask you to send me that photo so I can put it up. So
oh,
I think the
sure.
audience can
Oh,
understand what you're trying to say. Because I'm looking at
let
it,
me
and I
see.
think without the image, it's hard to
Yeah,
for
Okay.
audience
man.
to refer.
It was listening to this in the bus. I would be like, hey, I need to take out my phone and then see what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
How do I send it over to you, Eugene?
WhatsApp. WhatsApp.
WhatsApp?
Yeah.
WhatsApp. 1 second. Where's my WhatsApp? I'll put it into the strange world.
Yeah.
1 sec. 1 sec. 1 sec. 1 sec. Okay, here we go. Um, and where was I? I was talking. Oh, yeah, that we were manifesting at
Yeah.
all levels. If you are low energy, low vibration state, you're gonna attract things that are similar, which is things that are not good. But if you keep yourself at a high energy vibration state, you're gonna attract things that are similar, because you've probably seen this video on a tuning fork, right, of 440 hertz. And then when it's paired up with a 512, when you strike the 440, nothing happens. But if when you pair up with a 440, you strike the 440, the other one, the static, will also vibrate, and the ping pong balls will be swinging off of it. And this is when we talk about, like attracts like, your vibe attracts your tribe. And when you want to manifest things, you need to positive, you want to attract the right people, the right
Mm.
opportunities. You need to be at that level of vibration to attract that.
So that's why
So
some of you girls saying, why am I always attracting toxic guys? Because you are toxic lah.
Yeah,
well,
man.
I wouldn't want to be so punitive, but we could be toxic because we hold on to our emotional traumas, again energy. We hold on to our childhood, unhappy moments, and
Yeah.
that creates that energetic form that again attracts similar things. So a child that is abused could, when they grow up, they find a partner who is also abusive to continue the energetic pattern. And we want to break this low energy pattern. We need to heal the inner child trauma, which is what I kind of do nowadays. But coming back to to this chart, this is the sort of the energy level vibration of our thoughts and intention, our feelings, created by Dr. David R. Hawkins, and we can see that shame, guilt, fear, grief are very, very low energy. Whereas peace, joy, and enlightenment is highest energy. And places that are low energy, sort of like sucking out space, because we talk about suicide cases, that could be anger, it could be fear. Those are all low energy based on this graph. Yeah, yeah.
So I think the important question here is which level do we need to be for next year Chinese New Year, the lottery draw?
Yeah, imbue yourself all the time, not just during Chinese New Year, but all the time. Imbue yourself with the thoughts of joy, gratitude, appreciation. Then you live your vibration much higher at the level of 310 to 400.
This reminds me a lot of when your mom used to tell you don't hang out with this group of friends. I know you're going to become.
Bad
You used to
hats.
think is nonsense, but actually there is truth
Now,
behind this.
guys, I just found the secret to attaining Buddhahood. Watch, listen, Okay, look at the chart. 700 plus is enlightenment. Below that is peace, joy, love, right? So, in order to reach enlightenment, what Buddhist monks do is to not get married and not have women in their life, because we know women are the agent of chaos and entropy and will reduce from peace, joy, and love to probably fear, grief, apathy, and guilt. So, if you want to attain enlightenment, you need to remove such chaos from your life, which I think I've done lah. So that's why I'm a bit
Grace
closer
is not at
to
home, is it? That's all you can do.
Yeah, if Eugene disappears from this, you know why? Why is he removed?
He enlightened already.
enlightened. Grace will make me enlightened.
Forcefully.
Forcefully. Enlightened, You want enlightened, is
Forcefully
it? Come, I help you enlightened.
Yeah. And I do believe this chart is very, very powerful. And to be positively manifesting what you want and creating the reality that you want to see, you need to let go of those at the bottom, shedding all those traumas, guilt, fear, shame, and then you build that up with creating positive experiences, gratitude, happiness,
Yes.
and then love, peace, and joy. Yeah, and that's the way to go.
I noticed something. Sorry, can you go back to that chart for a while? Now, okay, I understand pride, anger, desire, fear. I understand all those they are not desirable things like desire is also kind of like greed in some sense. But why is courage lumped together with them? Do you know why? Like because I would imagine courage would be like maybe somewhere within in between maybe reason and acceptance.
Okay, this one I can try to explain with what I learned from meditation class, and it was a very mind-blowing explanation. You ask why courage is there somewhere in the middle, right below neutrality.
Yeah, it should at least be above that, I think. I don't know.
Because courage is also an expulsion of energy that is very close, if not the opposite, of anger and fear. So when you are feeling angry, there's a very strong emotion that leads to you having that emotional stand of I am not happy with this. Courage also comes from that very similar density of needing to overcome a fear and therefore increasing your emotional state to a level to match fear. So that's why fear, courage, and all that is around the same spot.
Wow.
When he explained to me, he did it with, do you know that happiness and hate are the same? And I was like, what? I always wish for happiness. Let's wish for happiness. Let me be happy. I want to, in the pursuit of happiness. How can happiness be the same as hate? And he says, when you hate, you carry this anchor with you that of a negative energy against something or someone. You do not let it go. It becomes an anchor. Again, weighs you down. And negative emotions, heavy emotions, leave imprints, trauma. And it says happiness, when you want to be happy, where do you draw that comparison from? Let's say today I said, Dr. Yong and Mike, think of a happy moment, right? So in your mind, you would conjure, this is where I am when I'm happy. Now, when we want to reach for the happiness again, it is not that we now have to achieve that state or more in order to be happy. Because if we are constantly happy at that state, then it's not happy anymore. It's neutrality, right? Because we are now norm to that happiness. So to go for happiness again, we need to then be in pursuit of more and more and more. And it's the same thing with anger, hate, and happiness, because there is that pursuit of wanting more of it, and therefore it anchors you down. So the idea of just going for acceptance is, it's okay, I'm letting everything go, right? And
Probably what you're saying, that in that form of happiness is also talking about the desire to be happy.
yes,
Mm.
yeah. So if like, or if only like good food makes me happy, or having relationships makes me happy, then you are anchored to a desire. So your happiness is then tagged to something that weighs you down.
Because okay, the reason why I ask this question is because it explains a lot. It explains a lot in the sense that um, pride and courage, I think throughout mankind has been easily misunderstood. You know, where we say we stand for others, where we say we stand for certain things, at some point of time it gets displaced by, oh, I'm actually just doing it for myself to feel good. And so it's very scary to know that the frequency of courage and pride is just 25 away. That's it.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that being said, right, pertaining to this graph, Dr. David R. Hawkins, he created this one, but I haven't gone through his methodology, how scientific it is, but we'll just use it as it
Okay.
is. Yeah. And just now, Eugene, you talk about hate, right? And sometimes when we hate something or someone, we are actually, we're kind of like judging this behavior, this person, and usually, why are we triggered by this person or something that he does?
Yeah.
Is because we have something that we have unresolved within. If we have nothing that we are holding within, no shame, no guilt, no anger, whatever they do cannot harm us. So if we have a lot of this, right, it behooves us to look inside and to let go of that thing so that we are not easily triggered. Yeah.
I I can attest to this chart now because I think I am at a state of being where I have moved really high up this into love, joy, and peace. I personally feel I'm at 500 to the 600 mark. And this was not the
Really
case years ago. No, years ago I probably am at pride, anger, desire, not so much apathy, grief, or guilt. I think I was working at the 175, 150 area, and just to share with you a bit of story or some over the weekend when I was during Sundays and Monday, I met up with an overseas shaman that came down and we started talking about energy because he's Japanese shaman and I was practicing Buddhism and Hinduism spiritual way, and we started talking together because he's also drawing his energy from source of fire and I'm drawing from source of fire. And when we sat down opposite each other, we did like meditation work and we started talking. Our energy was the same. We were working on the same level, and I can totally understand what it means by why courage is at 200 and right above that reason and acceptance is higher. The same way I can now say that in the last 1 year I have not gotten triggered by anyone or anything, or even if someone comes up to me and tells me, oh no Eugene, you're wrong, this is how this is, like, okay, I kind of accept what you said and I can see the reason in what you said. I may not be in your reality, but I accept it. I am willing to accept it, and I still love you all the same. And I walk away with so much joy that comes out of it. Like, oh, we are two different people with two different opposing ideas in the same space, and I can deal with that. But most times people cannot deal with that because they need you to buy into their story for their validation. So it's more their weakness that makes them trigger an anger at you. So when I walked away from that session on Monday after 2 hours of discussion with the shaman, he told me one thing. He says, Eugene, you are energy of love. In everything you do, love. Let love be your first thought and first word and first energy out. So having this discussion of you guys and seeing this chart, I kind of understand what he means.
Yeah, man. It's also very, very interesting that this is the peace, love, joy. In Bible terms, is also where we are supposed to be at. I just can't shake it for some reason.
The doves always
Yeah,
bring
it's always
peace, joy.
this. Yeah,
Maybe those in the 70s actually got it right because you have the PP movement. It's like
yeah,
peace, love, and joy, baby.
man. Yeah, until government propaganda, they start to demonize weed. Then
For
Yeah.
the Vietnam War, because they were like garnering support from the people, so they had to stop that happiness. Yeah. So
yeah,
So now maybe we are going to another tinfoil hat terrain where people are right.
yeah.
The shadow government is out there trying to remove people from their enlightened being
Oh
and
my god.
constantly pumping out information and news to make them fight and hate each other and constantly live in anger and low vibration.
ooh, and here we can talk about the fluoridation of water to cause pineal gland calcification. Dang, dang, dang.
Dang, dang,
Oh my
dang.
goodness. Here
Welcome
we
to
go.
Strange World.
Yeah, dude. Okay, guys. I was just
Sorry,
gonna
I was
say
like trying to
I'm very lost in my notes already. I do not know
Okay, so
how we
let's
are going
get
to
back.
bring
Let's
us.
get back.
I don't know how we are going to bring ourselves back into bioelectric energy, which is the next topic. But okay, so going back to where we were, which is, do spirits store energy, or rather, are ghosts just store energy? Right? I think um, I tried to get to these questions, so I'm just going to leave them out there. Okay. Now we know that objects and even natural materials can retain stored energy. But what does that mean about the places we visit, the things we own, and the actions we take? Which means that as a person, to say for example, okay, you know what? I'm not going to use a good example. I'm saying I am a horrible person.
Okay.
All right, I'm a full-on douchebag. Correct. What does that say about the space that I live in? Because energy transfers, right? Correct. So, like for example, sometimes women, they have this sixth sense to know whether a guy is good or bad, or they have this sixth sense to know whether the guy is good or bad, which is displaced as, I like this person, I like the bad boy more. I don't know. Just leave it as that.
Okay.
Okay. So that's one idea. All right. Another one would be, are we always constantly leaving behind echoes of ourselves? Whether is it an impression on somebody, whether is it an influence on others, are we constantly doing that without ourselves realizing it?
Oh.
Right. And then finally, okay, going back to the paranormal side, all right, if residual hauntings are real, is the past truly gone? Because entropy has an element of time. Okay, I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And now
Yeah,
we're
can I?
going to go. So, Doctor, you want to say anything?
Yeah. About
Okay. No,
that whether we are we supposed to answer your questions, or are
no,
we
no,
not
no,
supposed?
no, no, no. No, this is stuff that I want the kind of like the audience to
Think about.
Hey, Michael
Yeah.
is crazy lah. Come on lah. There's no such thing lah. That's what we want here. Is it?
Okay. Should I answer the question, or
Yeah,
I
You
should
can.
just
go
Oh
leave
ahead.
yeah,
it?
of course, definitely you can.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely your point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't say
So.
that we have all the answers. We don't say that our answers are right. We just say that
Mm,
this is where it is, and it's up to you
mm,
to agree or disagree.
mm,
Yeah.
okay. So, in particular, to the do we leave our echoes, our energy behind? Basically, saying that the trail of us, right? Can it actually affect people around us, right? So Eugene, there's another picture in the WhatsApp that you can blow up. So this is research by HeartMath Institute. It has been there for about 2 decades plus. Currently, the CEO or the leader is called Dr. Roddy McCarthy. So if you look at this image, right, we're talking about the magnetic field of the heart. Everything is energy. So our heart produces a magnetic field that is 100 times stronger than the magnetic field of our brain. And if you have seen an ECG before, right, you see the bleed, and that is electrical energy from the heart. If you see an EEG measuring the brain waves, that is the electrical energy of the brain. But the magnetic field, you can measure it using a squid magnetometer, SQUID, a squid magnetometer, and it looks like a person will look like having this apple core, right? Like, he is at the apple core and looks like a donut. We call this a torus field, and this torus field is if you have a north-south magnet, right? It looks actually like how a north-south magnet would actually attract the iron shavings. So this magnetic field, it actually carries information, emotional information, and it interacts with people around us, whether we are aware of it, whether we like it or not. So this is how the thoughts about energy vampires, people who are within your space, and you talk to him like 5 minutes, you felt like you spend 2 hours talking to this person, and you feel drained, and you need to get away. You need to protect your space, your boundaries, because this person is draining you. Not that he is a negative entity or ghost, but there are people at that level of vibration that tends to draw energy from you, like a hot cup of coffee dissipating, the heat into the surrounding space. This person somehow functions like that, that thing. So we should be in control of our energy, because when we go into a room, people will get affected by us, and we do not want to be the rebel. We do not want to be the cause of disruption and the cause of problems or disharmony in a place if we can help it. Yeah.
Wow. Did we just did we just prove that energy vampires exist in the office?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ask me.
Or
Yeah.
this one I also had first hand experience. Okay, that graph is very interesting, and I think I'm just going to skip my introduction and go straight into it. Right? Okay.
Just to let you
Now,
guys know, we got to end the stream in 8 minutes
okay,
time. Okay,
we finish.
we can always carry on part 2 again.
Yeah, of course. I told you already. We're here for 5 hours. Okay, so it appears, okay, and it's a fact, right? The body constantly generates electricity. Every single one of our cells actually carries a tiny electrical charge. And there are some people like myself, when we touch electronic items, we get that static. It's actually coming from there, right? Why? Because your nervous system operates like an electrical grid, and it's that sends signals throughout your entire body. If you actually want to measure it, you can. I don't know how they did it, but apparently you can measure that energy. And
Yeah, galvanic skin response. Yeah.
there we go. Thank you, Doctor. Yeah, that's why you're
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
And the other one to concretize what Mike is saying, if you've seen sharks or rays and how they detect prey under the sand, right? They have this ampullae of Lorenzini that is they are electric sensory organs that can detect muscle contraction because if let's say you are a small stream and you're hiding under the sand, you need to breathe, right? You need to whether you have gills and lungs, that process of breathing produces electrical charge, and that is how sharks and rays can find prey under the sand. Yeah, back to you, Mike. That is the sixth
Yeah.
sense detecting
Oh,
electricity.
that's very interesting. That is okay. Hold on. See? This is good. This is good. I'm lost in a good way.
So when we talk about stored energy and all that, what I'm thinking about is, could that be the explanation? Because infodynamics, right? Information is stored in space, and if we understand that the spirit world doesn't follow the linear time that we understand as mortals,
Yeah.
could infodynamics be then the explanation that if reality stores information, then things like the Akashic records, for example, or the idea of destiny and karma and fate, all these are information that has already existed. Means the world, as we know, is already in existence, past, present, and future. In an energy bubble, it all
Yeah,
already exists in various permutations and possibilities. And it all
correct.
gets stored already. And when the psychics tap on this knowledge, they're actually tapping on infodynamics, but not in the linear time frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
In some sense, yes. Actually, we are building. Actually, I am building that this entire show to that. But you realize that if you just throw that out right now, you sound pretty crazy.
I mean, not quite. I mean, this is strange world. You're gonna get the people listening in and going, "Yeah, that's what I've been saying all along.
That's
This is
good.
my
Yeah, that's
tribe,
good.
right?" So we are your
Yeah,
tribe people. We
yeah,
say the
but
things that people think you're crazy about, but because we are here on screen talking about
yeah,
that, and we got a
exactly.
very cool Dr. Young in the center looking like Neo, we're all fine. We lead you to the promised land.
Yeah, this is
Revolution.
really yeah,
Yeah.
Uh,
man. This is
um,
this is okay. So the energy is measurable, right? And the thing is, are paranormal entities actually interacting with those electricity, the bioelectric, the magnetic fields that Dr. Yong just showed us, correct? That causes the energy depletion of us. Or like for example, sometimes when we say an area is haunted, it doesn't or like I will tell you a story. My home, right? There was this one time my wife brought home an item. I think Eugene, I show you before what the item was. She brought home from somewhere lah. It's free. It looks antique, and then she brought it back. The moment she brought the item home, I felt something was very bad about it. But we didn't think so much after a while until one day she went to the master, and then the master said, "Did you know that your item is that the item in your house is possessed?" So immediately after we removed the item, correct, our marriage was got a lot better, and that resulted in my 1.5 year old toddler. But the thing was that that item itself was has actually been draining the energy and the happiness in my house.
mm,
That is the punchline here.
mm,
So are these items, these so-called paranormal entities, like I said, the item was possessed, right? Do they have the ability to actually drain? Because we understand that also, in Southeast Asia, correct, the our Miss P kakak also is known to drain the life force of victims. Yes.
Yeah.
You also got the Dato Karamat, they are guardian spirits, that are also known to do energy transactions, right? So in this case, when we talk about energy draining, we talk about thermodynamics, we talk about infodynamics, correct? When we talk about how things are imprinted and all that. Do these do these things, have this active ability to draw energy from our world in order to manifest and do what they do? Which goes back to I think the final question of this session before we move on to even more crazier stuff is all these paranormal interactions that we have been talking about today, are they really just myth, or have science finally caught up with the physics and the understanding behind it?
Wow. Taking on that question from you, Mike, I want to also leave audience with another question to think about and also for Dr. Young to ponder. Now, if we are able to science infodynamics and thermodynamics and find a way to measure them and replicate them the way science should, then could the next evolution of artificial intelligence be able to tap onto that information and then become sentient beings in a machine?
Yes.
Whoa! We just blew your mind, strange worlds.
Terminator and Skynet.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Okay. Okay. I think that's let's end
Yeah,
off here. Dr.
yeah.
Yong, any last words to wrap up the show for us today?
I think it'll take too long. So I just want to end with that. What Mike experienced, I also experienced with a similar item, and probably I'll share that in the next episode. And I guess my parting words would be like, we talk about a lot, but the take home for me, for the audience, is that how are you in charge of your own energy, and how are you affecting the people around you? And we talk about, we don't want energy vampires, but are we the energy and vampire sometimes? Yeah.
So if you're interested in Dr. Yong's meditation class and higher consciousness discussion, well, leave us a message. I'll hook you guys up with him, and you can then all join him on, I think, every day? You run a class every day, Dr. Yong?
A workshop every month.
Workshop every month. Okay, let us know in the comment section if you want to join us for next workshop. Well, let's all gather together, and we will be able to meet on a meditation class at least. Okay, and that's all from me. Thank you very much, guys. You've been great hosts and bringing a lot of this information out to the surface that we probably don't think about enough. And that is Dr. Yong in the middle, looking really cool, and Mary Mike, who's our research expert in this topic. All right, goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
What did you find? You are listening to Supernatural Confessions.